What is going on, guys? Mike here with Chit Chat Gaming. So the other day, a friend of mine were having a conversation here. We're talking about WWE 2K23, which releases here in March, and we're both very, very excited for it. But I just kept saying, I'm like, man, I really wish this came out on Nintendo Switch, only because of the fact, for the obvious reasons of mobility. You know, I can play it anywhere I want and so forth, take it with me. And I was just really, really excited. I was like, I really want to play this on Switch. But however, though, I don't want it to be a mess like this game here. Now, we know that the Nintendo Switch can definitely handle the game. This is just a bad port job. All in all, this game was just an awful, awful port job. But we know that the Nintendo Switch can handle it. It can handle plenty of other games that is more demanding. So we know it can work. I mean, look, it handles NBA pretty good. It handles like FIFA and so forth pretty good. MLB The Show and so forth. So it can definitely handle it, and I can get past, you know, all the graphics and stuff like that. You know, I don't really care if the graphics aren't 100%. They don't look on par with the other consoles. I don't care as long as it runs and everything, and it's playable. Which this game is absolutely not playable, only in 1v1, barely. But again, though, I'd be perfectly happy with that. So I want to talk about here really quick here. We had a conversation. I was like, no, I'm going to talk to my community about this as well here too. We just basically talked about Nintendo and how they definitely have always been able to prove that they can definitely make some damn good wrestling games. I mean, there's plenty of games back in the past here that were basically just, you know, Nintendo only here. Games like, of course, WWF Revenge, Nintendo 64, No Mercy, Nintendo 64, one of the most like biggest wrestling games ever, most popular wrestling games ever here, one that everybody talks about, that everybody wants to be like, even AEW's Fight Forever, is No Mercy. They say it's one of the best wrestling games of all time, and games like WrestleMania 2000 here. So we know the Nintendo 64, you know, had its fair share of great wrestling games, but of course we know that other platforms did as too, including the Nintendo GameCube, which Day of Reckoning series, you know, Day of Reckoning 1, Day of Reckoning 2 were absolutely fantastic. This is probably one of my favorite wrestling games of all time, arcade wrestling game. It's not a simulation, but an arcade style wrestling game. And yes, it might not have been as good as the SmackDown series, but it was damn good here. I remember playing this, you know, back in the day all the time here. I remember waiting at my doorstep for this to come in. Even other games like WrestleMania 18, which was like, it was okay, but WrestleMania 19 was actually really good on the Nintendo GameCube as well too. So my point here is that we know that Nintendo can definitely do it here. We know there's been some great wrestling games that have come out on Nintendo only platforms here. So for me though, I think there's a lot of room and stuff for growth for Nintendo here. I really, really think that they could definitely port a decent version of WWE 2K23 to the Nintendo Switch if they had teamed up and used somebody else to port it, or just did a better job all in general here. This is one of the first big tests for Nintendo here. I remember this is like one of the first big tests for wrestling games and so forth on the Nintendo Switch. So, but I think they could really do it. Or let's say they decide to do something like this and they go down and make like a Day of Reckoning. It doesn't have to be Day of Reckoning, but I'm talking about like a more exclusive. Nintendo had its own exclusive wrestling games for WWE, even for like other games as well too, other wrestling games. I believe Legends of Wrestling 1 and 2 may have been exclusive to the GameCube. I can't remember, but I had them. I could have sworn they were, and 3 came out on another platform. I could be wrong. But either way though, maybe they do that. Maybe they go down that road. Maybe they create their own wrestling game here. WWE creates a wrestling game that is exclusively for Nintendo Switch. Now, I'm definitely curious to see what happens here, because apparently reported anyways that Nintendo isn't really pushing out a ton of big games this upcoming year. They have their big hitters, but they're not going to be pushing out anything else beyond that as of right now. And this year, are they setting up for a Nintendo Switch, you know, a new one, a new version? I'm not going to call it the Pro, but are they, you know, setting up for a new Nintendo Switch or something a little bit more powerful? If that being the case, then, you know, maybe we could definitely see something. But either way, though, we know Nintendo Switch can handle it. So for me personally, I would love to see like an exclusive Nintendo game, Nintendo wrestling game here, a WWE wrestling game on the Switch. I think they could definitely do it. Even if it's an arcade style game, I'm perfectly fine with that. Give me an arcade brawler. I mean, give me like something that's really fun like that. I mean, even AEW's Fight Forever is going to be a simulation. It's going to be more of an arcade style wrestling game like, you know, the No Mercies and like Day of Reckoning. I think that'd be a great thing. I think there'd be a huge market for it as well too if they went and created a Nintendo Switch exclusive arcade style wrestling game. So WWE, 2K, whoever it is, somebody please create a WWE arcade style wrestling game that's not Battlegrounds, that looks more like something like Day of Reckoning, right? Where it looks kind of realistic, but, you know, a little cartoonish is perfectly fine. But it's a great game here all in all. fun game, arcade style wrestling game with some of the mechanics from No Mercy, Day of Reckoning, etc. So let me know down below here too what you guys think here. Do you guys think that Nintendo could definitely handle and could produce a great wrestling game, a WWE wrestling game here for it as an exclusive? Would you want one? And give me some ideas on what you would like to see from them. Maybe someday they'll see it, maybe someday it'll happen. So you never know. Anything can happen in the WWE, like they always say, and anything can happen in the gaming world as well too. So again, sound off down below here. Make sure you guys like this video if you choose to. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and make sure you turn on that bell notification to keep updated all things that is Chit Chat Gaming. And as always, guys, happy gaming.